Hello, YouTube people. We are going live here and
doing a little pre-partying.
All right, and it's coming up on the channel and on the actual YouTube feed. So that looks live, and now we also have our Facebook Live and our Instagram Live. Hello, everybody. Kevin Luther here, Voluptuary and Lucid Wines, as well as
Jerome Luther, his brother.
Yep. So we are here, and I actually am going to stall for a second because I see that Facebook is waiting for the exact 5 o'clock according to their clock to go live. So I'm just going to keep talking for a second. Yeah, we're on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook Live at the same time here. So we've got 3 cameras set up. So it gets a bit crazy to align them all. So thank you all for your patience. So, again, I'm Kevin Luther here with Voluptuary and Lucid Wines, and I have my brother Jerome joining me. And we are going to be tasting through a lineup of Lucid wines today. So, I'm just going to double check real quick here that everyone's seeing this. Awesome. Looks like they're all live. So, we're going to be tasting through these 5 wines. In a second, Jerome is going to give you guys a breakdown of how you're going to taste along and the kits you have in front of you. But first, I just want to give you guys a really quick introduction to who we are in general. So, as I said, I'm Kevin Luther. I'm the owner and winemaker here. I'm a winemaker that I've been working in this region for about 10 years now, running other wineries. Born and raised in the Sacramento area, educated at the Davis winemaking program, and then I traveled around the world learning winemaking at different places. And Voluptuary Wines, I launched last year, is all of my organic, really experimental wines. And it's kind of my trial ground for my organic winemaking. Lucid is my wines that take those concepts, those experimental ideas, while still being very experimental and very organic and natural, bring them into a sort of a easygoing, laid-back, mainstream vibe. We have a comment or a...
Yeah, do you want Instagram to be sideways like that?
Oh, that's weird. So let's do a little something here. We've got an odd thing going on Instagram. Let's see if I can fix that real quick. That's gonna be. There we go.
That's better.
Yeah. All right, that's gonna be a little narrow on Instagram, but it will.
Unless people want to just split their phone.
It will suffice. No, we'll survive with that. So, all right.
Just come in close.
So we're gonna be tasting through. Like I say, our Lucid lineup here today. So I'm going to do a tour a little later, but for now we're going to launch right into the show, and Jerome's going to show you guys our lineup today, our tasting kits, and how everyone who has their kits can follow along with this virtual tasting.
Yeah, so all of you received some version of what you see here, where you got a little styrofoam holder, you've got your 5 little taster units, and then it's packaged up. And then you've got your tasting sheet to go along with it. If by some chance, that got lost somewhere along the way, it's also attached on the website and on the feeds, so you can print out a new one or reference it there. So the wines as they're shown here line up with your wines from light to dark. So you can take them out, drink along with this, and then you can take notes or, use this to kind of follow along with what you're drinking.
So, with that being said, thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate this. We are a tiny little winery. I call it a micro winery because I'm only making a little over 1,000 cases here. It's a 1,000 square foot warehouse, 20 feet wide by 50 feet deep. And, most of the wines I release are 1 or 2 barrels. They're a couple hundred bottles of each wine, and they sell out, fairly quickly for that reason. And we're so small that your purchases and you guys following this makes a massive difference. We were going to launch our tasting room here in Sacramento, and then, the apocalypse hit, and we couldn't launch our physical tasting room, and I thought we were going to go out of business. I thought, if we can't make sales, we can't survive. We're too small. And luckily, these tasting kits and this virtual tasting stuff has massively taken off. You know, we sold 250 of these or so this week.
Yeah, it's grown every single week. So
Yeah.
I think it's around 250.
So I really just want to thank all of you for purchasing your kits and for joining in and following along. It just means so much. And if you guys can hashtag a friend or share this, that, you know, it's an algorithm thing. Facebook doesn't look at the little guys unless you throw a bunch of money at it with advertisements, which we can't afford to do. So you guys tagging, sharing, commenting makes a huge difference for us. And most importantly, ask questions and make comments, because, you know, this is an interactive thing. If we're just talking about the wines, it can get a bit dry. So asking questions so we can answer. If you're curious about one of the wines or about the winemaking or the winery, please throw out your questions in the comments. We have Smiles Miles here in the audience.
Hey everybody!
Yeah, that's Smiles. You hear her beautiful voice and her giggle in the background throughout our shows. And so she'll ask the question to us or come up on stage. In fact, if you ask more questions, we can get her to come up here and ask the questions on stage. So ask questions, please.
Yeah, and on that note of sharing the wine or sharing, these feeds, I want to say it's also really important, and it's a really awesome thing about this, people sharing these tastings with other people. We have a lot of people who are spreading it to friends and neighbors and loved ones, and actually our musical performers today learned about us based on that. But we also, like this week alone, we've got somebody who's treating 6 friends, somebody else who has 12 people tasting along with them, and other large groups that are joining in and doing this tasting. And it's really fun to connect that way. We're all kind of isolated, we're all separated, and through the comments, through the sharing, this is a great way to have like a little side Zoom party, have a birthday party, just all stay connected. And on that, one thing I like to do each week as the guy who delivers and ships the orders is I kind of try to track how things are spreading and the different groups we have taking place. Give some shout outs, because I think it's fun that we're all staying connected this way. We got Shannon Bravo. She's the person who bought 7 kits. So she's got a group in Sacramento all joining in. Brianna Alexander, 13 people in Elk Grove are tasting along and doing this party.
Woo!
We have a few people from the San Diego School District taking part, I believe, today. We've got a tasting party in Baltimore, and Sweetwater, in Maryland, which I think is awesome, especially because The Wire is like my favorite show ever. I literally looked up where they live. It's like, whoa, she lives right between, the Greek's Diner and Orlando's Gentleman Club. Totally true, by the way. Mind-boggling. And also, Noreen, it's her birthday today. So we've got a dozen plus people spread all around multiple states joining in and tasting for her birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you all for joining in. I think it's a great way for us to all stay connected and not lose our sanity and get to drink and enjoy ourselves a little at the same time.
Yeah, thank you, Jerome, for those shout outs, and thank you everyone for commenting and checking in here and liking and whatnot. I see a bunch of it coming in, and I think Ann Crenshaw nailed it when she said, "I'm ready to drink that white." So let's pour ourselves some of that first wine. I mean, I'm drinking the full bottle version, so we offer the 5 bottles, 1 of each you're tasting tonight option, or you can have the kit version, which is what Jerome's going with.
Yeah.
So this first wine you have, go ahead and pour that for yourself. This one it's a Chardonnay blend. So I say Chardonnay blend because it's Chardonnay based with a little bit of another grape, Malvasia Bianca. Chardonnay is kind of your standard white wine grape. It tends to bring your what they call orchard fruits, peach, pear, apple, and Malvasia Bianca is related to muscat. And so it brings more of your tropical fruit and floral notes. So you're going to get a mix of those here. But of course, I can't keep anything, simple. I tend to do experimental winemaking on all of my stuff. So I call this wine skin contact because I fermented it on the skins. Whole berry grapes, so Chardonnay grapes and Malvasia Bianca grapes, uncrushed whole berries. Fermented those naturally, and after fermentation, crushed those, pressed off the wine, and aged that in neutral French oak with a little bit of new oak. So you get mostly the fruit flavors, but you get a little bit of oak influence. To backpedal a bit, that skin contact technique is a kind of a natural winemaking, experimental winemaking technique that you see these days that's derived from an ancient Georgian winemaking technique from the country of Georgia, of all places. And it brings more intense aromatics and a little bit of weight to the wine. So you got a mix of those intense aromatics and weight, the different varietal characteristics, and a little bit of oak influence. And then I also aged this on a little bit of lemon wood, which gives this slight citrusy flavor. So you got this crazy mix of intense aromatics and a nice body to the wine.
Donella says delicious.
Thank you, Donella. I appreciate that. I agree, but I'm kind of biased. It's like, when you agree that your child is beautiful. When's that thing? Yes, I agree. I love this. So these grapes organically grown. They're not certified organic, not all of them anyway. The vineyards that we bought them from were organic in transition, and they're now certified organic actually as of 2020. And then they are organically grown from across California, mostly Lodi, but a little bit down in Contra Costa County. And yeah, that's kind of all the details. I mean, I could get into the soil and geeky stuff, but I don't want to bore you guys and talk for too long. So I'll move past my geeky winemaking details and get into my quirky pairings that I do every episode. I don't know if you guys have watched yet, but I always do a variety of pairings for each of my wines. First off, my life pairing with this wine. So my life pairing with this is spring and summertime, hanging with your friends, hanging out by the pool or the lake, or drunken rafting down the American River for the locals, and relaxing by yourself in the evening. Hot summer day, but at the end of it, you're cooling down with a glass of cold white wine. So that's my life pairing for this wine. And then my music pairings, we have Follow the Sun by Xavier Rudd, as well as Sunshine by Atmosphere. Xavier Rudd, a really cool Australian artist, and Atmosphere, an awesome underground hip-hop artist. Then I have my literary pairings. My literary pairing for this one is from Rachel Carson, awesome environmentalist, writer, and naturalist, and activist. And the quote comes from her book, The Sense of Wonder. And the quote is, "A child's world is fresh and new and beautiful, full of wonder and excitement. It is our misfortune that for most of us, that clear-eyed vision, that true instinct for what is beautiful and awe-inspiring, is dimmed and even lost before we reach adulthood. If I had influence with the good fairy who is supposed to preside over the christening of all children, I should ask that her gift to each child in the world be a sense of wonder so indestructible that it would last throughout life, as an unfailing antidote against the boredom and disenchantment of later year, the alienation from the source of our strength." So, kind of an intense, long quote, but I think it kind of embodies some of my ideas with Lucid of reconnecting with that sense of wonder from our childhood, where we just have a raw wonder for nature and senses and existence. And to bring that back, I think, is a really magical thing, and I try to embody a bit of that in my wine. And then my food pairings, and I want more of your input, because you're always better at the food pairings, but white sauce pasta, like pasta carbonara, fish and hummus, not fish and hummus, but fish, hummus, hummus and veggies. I think roasted cauliflower is a nice pair for this. What do you think?
I think all of those are good. I would personally like, I do agree it's a good seafood pairing. I also think this would be a good one with cheese or fruit platter. It's like you said, or both. Not only does it go well with the orchard fruit, but it has both like the funkiness to go along with some of your stronger cheeses, and also like the smoothness to go along with some lighter, crisper cheeses.
Yeah.
So I could see this being a very good pairing, and it goes with your life pairings where you're out and about. It could be a very good like picnic, lunch, some smoked salmon and some cheeses and crackers and.
Yeah, that's actually like Smiles Miles, and I just went down to a local nature spot in town, FEU Nature Center, and I went for a little hike and hung out down by the river with some nice, more or less that. It was smoked salmon and cheeses and some stuff. It was perfect. So this would have been
had
great.
a cheap wine.
Yeah, we actually drank some Lambrusco, which is for a winemaker that's basically the equivalent of water, like sparkling water. It's just it's easy drinking.
Yeah, and I actually, going on the whole concept of having kind of different pairings, a lot of people don't do literary pairings or music pairings. They stick to the food. Pretty much nobody does. And a lot of people have really enjoyed the fact that we do that, and we've had some comments and some challenges. Last week, Jalal Haddad, one of our musical guests, asked if we could come up with a sexual position pairing for our wines. And this being Lucid, the very fun-loving, easygoing, I decided to take that on. So these aren't sexual positions exactly. This is more Kama Sutra pairings. Because the Kama Sutra, while it is about sex, that's not all it's about. It's about romance. It's about being a good lover, being a good husband or wife. It's about courtship. It's about the whole story arc of everything in that realm. And wines, they generally tend to have that same arc as well, from your lights to your darks. So I have some pairings to go along with these. So the skin contact here, I think, is akin to like your flirtation and foreplay phase, where it's, you know, that early stages. You've got the nervous jitters, you know, you're raising the hackles on each other's skin. Good for things like picnics or flirty texting with each other and sending photos, bubble baths and massages, and self-love, so to speak. So that's what I would put as the pairing for this, and as we go along, I'll continue giving those.
I think you just described every woman's perfect day.
I was just gonna say, like...
Smiles agrees. She's like, why doesn't Kevin ever do that with me anymore?
It sounds like what you guys did this weekend.
Yeah, you know.
I could have used the bubble bath though.
Right, we missed the bubble bath. We'll have to bring that
I'll
in
publish
next
these earlier next
So-
time. So.
Can you just pre-write out our dates?
So, if you need date ideas, take notes throughout today's show. Jerome's pairings are going to be wonderful for that.
I'll post this after, actually, if people are interested.
That's a great idea. So, awesome. So that is the first wine.
Oh, Diane just says, like this dry and lightly sweet, unusual combination.
Yeah, you know, I think it's interesting about this wine that it is technically dry. There's no residual sugar in this wine. In fact, with kind of one exception, none of my wines have residual sugar in them. I don't add back sugar, I don't do any of that nonsense. They just ferment, they become alcohol, you know, they become wine, and they're dry. But part of my style is that I like to make my wines very fruit forward, very easygoing and fun to drink, and therefore they can almost seem sweet or like sweet in the sense of being very fruit forward and easy to drink. But it's not from sugar, it's just from fruitiness.
It's the natural flavors coming through real strong, because you don't just have it cloaked in sugar like American soda.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for that comment. So now we'll go ahead and move into the second wine. So this will be our first red. For those of you with the kits at home, tip back that first one, and then pour yourself some of the second.
Or if you're, because this is about one glass, this is where it's all together. If you're drinking something on the side, then, you know, do that too as you go.
Yeah, so I always, pour myself a little taste, and then I have something else to drink with it. That's just my style. Today, I have a nice selection in front of me. In fact, I have coffee. I have, well, it's actually kind of I call it toffee. It's tea-coffee mix. I'm kind of weird like that. And then I have some beer, some wild little thing from Syrah, Nevada. They did a sour wild ale, which is kind of cool. Local brewery. And Luponic Distortion from Firestone. So some nice beers. Sometimes I'll drink scotch or tequila, but today it's beer. I'm staying laid back. I actually had scotch earlier. So, back to the wine. We have the L3 Manifesto Barbera. This is, for the Lucid brand, my lightest red. You're going to get a lot of fresh fruit, blackberry and plum and raspberry, maybe even pomegranate. And it's a lot of ripe fruit, as well as a little bit of these vanilla mocha type flavors. And while it is dark in color and dark in the colors of the fruits you think of when you smell it and taste it, it's relatively light in the palate. There's a little more acidity and a little less tannins. It's not bitter, it's not astringent, it's not drying in your mouth. It's more acid driven. And that was my idea with this wine, was to make a wine that was fruit forward and dark, and not heavy. So it's like an easy drinking dark red in a way.
Yeah, I really like it because of that. I love the complexities of wines. I mean, Wanderlust is my favorite. It's like the most complex you have, but this is beautiful because it's so clean and straightforward.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful fruit flavors, a little bit of those, cocoa, caramel, and then that's it. It's just a couple flavors just kind of maxed out.
And it's fairly straightforward, yeah. Yeah, and that was my angle with this wine, is I think Barbera originally is a grape that comes from Italy. And in Italy, it is an everyman's wine. It's, Nebbiolo in the same region in the northwest of Italy, close to the border with France. Nebbiolo is like, grows in the hilltops and it costs hundreds of dollars for the rich only. Barbera grows in the valleys and makes a lighter red wine, a little more acid driven, a little more fruit forward, and everyone drinks that. That's the Tuesday night wine, And so I wanted to make it kind of reflective of that style in Italy. So, this grape, our actual grapes for this wine come from a local vineyard, Fournier Estates in Placer County. And when I fermented this, with Lucid, it's natural and organic and sulfite-free winemaking. I'll occasionally throw in little twists though. So this wine started wild with a natural fermentation from the yeast and bacteria that come in from the vineyard. And then as the fermentation continued, I actually brought in a little bit of Belgian beer yeast, which is a weird twist. It just added a little other flavor.
You're crazy.
Yeah, I'm crazy. So, all right, my life pairings with this. This life pairing is dinner with friends, autumn or spring nights. Nothing complicated, just relaxing, enjoying dinner and good wine with friends. On which note, my musical pairings are Feeling Good by Nina Simone and How to Explain by Cat Empire. So, because I referenced Cat Empire, which is this cool Australian band I really like, my literary pairing is actually a quote that I have on the back of the Lucid bottles that I think really embodies a lot of my brand vibe, is from Cat Empire, a song called The Wine Song, appropriately. I'm gonna die with a twinkle in my eye, because I sung songs, spun stories, loved, laughed, and drank wine. So, yeah, and then food pairing for this, I feel like since it's not a super dark red, if you're gonna do meat, it's more of a pork wine. And then with veggies, it's sort of a nice medium, not like super dark mushrooms or something, not like salads, but maybe your squash and your kind of in between vegetables and a medium sauce.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Something like pork with like a barbecue sauce that's maybe got some sweetness or fruitiness to it, or maybe even like a salad with some stone fruit mixed in, or it's got a little darker, it's not a white, but it's not like a red meat and like heavy type of pairing.
Exactly. So, actually, I realized I wanted to take a moment to introduce our subscription products and our monthly kits to you guys. So we're gonna actually take a second here and have Jerome introduce those, and then after he shows you those, we're gonna have a little bit of live music performance.
I had a pairing for that as well.
Oh, right, the pairing. I can't forget about that.
Yeah, so the Barbera, the Manifesto here, this one spoke to me more of like passion and lust, which again, it's kind of the next phase along that arc. It's that, that honeymoon stage when you can't keep your hands off each other. So this one is for more like things, and the first one I had more, sensations and experiences. This is more, positions and acts. This is for things, like I said, you can't keep your hands off each other. You can't even find a bed, up against the wall, hood of the car, squeezed in the broom closet. It's the kind of thing, maybe a little bit of hair pulling and just raw desire manifested. So that's what this makes me think of as far as that goes.
I like that.
And now let me go down here for this.
So.
Oh, you got a question on that while Kevin's adjusting the cameras?
Yeah, I just like this comment by Tiffany Collins. She said, I could definitely see bringing a bottle of this to a friend's house or like a book club if I participated in something like a book club.
That's pretty funny. Okay.
A little at odds with what my pairing was, but it can be good for all sorts of situations.
All right. So Jerome is going to show you guys our.
So what you guys see here is some of the gifts that come along with these subscription packages. So We have monthly subscriptions, 1 to 3 bottles, and you can choose all Lucid, all voluptuary, or a mix. And along with that, each month, you get gifts done by local artists that match our ethos and just are fun to have around. Adult coloring books or corkscrews, fancy smelling soaps, nice cutting boards and jewelry, little fairy night lights, local natural honey, which is great with the allergies, especially with it being so windy lately. Fancy candles made locally. So with the subscriptions, you get those, and also if you're an artist, contact us and you might be featured in an upcoming month. But it's a great way to give back to the community, stay involved, and just enjoy yourself a little. Onto the kits, which you also see here on the table. These are your 3 options you have here today for tasting. For $8, you get the little fleet of wines, which a lot of you have, and it just gives you a chance to taste along and enjoy this experience with the wines in hand. Your second option is kind of your couples option, where you have the full bottle chosen from the lineup and 2 kits. So you can drink along and then, also have a little more to top off like we do. Your last option, kind of your party pack, is the 5 bottles that are represented here, but in full bottle kits. So that's if you got a big household, if you're sharing it neighbor to neighbor, or if you just want the ability to keep drinking for the next week or a couple days or however long, it would take you to do that. So these are the different options you have, and it goes for about $8, 30 to 50 range, and a little over, was it a little over 200? No, a little over 100, isn't it? For the
varies week to week, but around 100, yeah.
Because it's all based on the actual wines involved, and then they're discounted, from anywhere from like 20 to 30%. Yeah. But these are your different options. So make sure to keep that in mind when you're ordering. Get the best for your money.
Thank you, Jerome, for breaking that down.
And we do that as well because we want to make sure that this is accessible to everybody. If you only got $8, you can still do it. But if you have money and you invest and you love the wines, you can do that. We like to be wine for everybody. We want it to be something that everyone can enjoy. We weren't raised where we had lots of money, we had access to everything, and we want this to be accessible to people like us.
Cool. So now we are going to have our live music performance today from Ruby J and Aaron Lincoln. I believe. Lincoln. There we go. Woo-hoo. So thank you guys for joining us.
All right. Thanks for having us. We discovered the wines like a month or so ago while the quarantine was still really starting to make you want wine. Yeah, want to drink more. And we popped in and got ourselves tasting kits, and now we're hooked.
Nice, thank you.
Now we get the live experience.
Yeah, thank you for liking the wine and for joining us on the show.
Yes, thank you. We're going to do an original song of mine. Should we scoot over slightly for Instagram?
Sure.
This song I wrote a few years ago, and it's called Through the Roof and Past the Sun. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's getting closer to the day I have planned to drive away. Though there's no one waiting for me, just a challenge I must face. Don't ask me what I'm thinking, thoughts might just delay all the dreams I'm finally seeking as I set out on my way. I miss you so much, these thoughts
awesome. Thank you guys so much. Wow, like if I had any like intensity and anxiety, like the adrenaline I get from coming on live here, that like soothed me right now.
Oh,
Like I just feel so relaxed now.
That's funny. It got me all like hyped up. That's the screaming in the background. Like,
Yeah, man. I mean, it could just be all of the alcohol I'm drinking that soothed me down. It's hard to be sure.
well, it's also kind of like the wines. You know, we give our concepts and descriptions, but there's no right or wrong. They're all perspectives.
Right? That's like a saying in the wine industry amongst relaxed wine people is people say, well, what's the best wine? It's whichever one you like. Really.
It's whatever one you got.
Whichever one you got. It comes down to it. So, all right, the one we got at the moment is our L4 Ripen Zinfandel. So go ahead and pour yourself that. Or if you don't have your kit with us, just you can pour yourself whatever you have. Some beer, some scotch, some peach schnapps, like our aunts out in Utah occasionally do, and they can't get our wine smuggled across the border. So, the first taste of this can be a bit intense. This is a wine that's all about big, bold, wild flavors. This is a Zinfandel, which is a uniquely Californian wine. I didn't create a poll for this, but shout out in the comments if you guys know where Zinfandel comes from. I say it's uniquely Californian, so the obvious answer is California. What's the secret answer? Am I misleading you, or am I double faking you? Who knows? If anyone knows it, I'll give you like a code for, how about this? I'll give you a code for a 99-cent tasting next time if you get it right and you say where Zinfandel is really originally from. All right. So, Zinfandel, though, while it's originally from a different country, is most known in California. And it's known for making, like, the wine of the people. Back in the day, it was white Zinfandel, which was this, like, sweet rosé. And then in more modern years, it makes a blackberry, jammy kind of red wine. And you get blackberry in this. You get jam in this.
So that's actually white Zin and red Zin are the same grape. I assumed that was a different grape.
Same grape. They call them different clones, meaning it's the same species, but different subspecies is what it is from like a evolutionary perspective. Yeah, from a genus perspective. But in any case, this is in some ways a classic Zin. It's jammy, it's blackberry, and it was picked at a fairly high sugar level. So it's high alcohol as well. And you might notice just a little bit of residual sugar on this. And that's just natural. That's because the fermentation fermented until it was really high alcohol and a little bit of residual sugar. But there's also a lot of acid in this wine. It's a big wine overall with really intense flavors. Very like wild blackberry bramble. It reminds me of like going and picking blackberries down by the river and like trampling over the brambles and picking blackberries until your face and hands are covered in purple. Like
that was our childhood, actually. The easy way to go across the blackberries is put down a board, by the way. You can get real deep in there.
Insider trick. Yeah. So that's this wine to me. It's just kind of classic Sacramento. And I haven't mentioned this in some of these earlier wines, but while I don't add a bunch of additives or sulfites or other things, I don't add any of that. One thing I do use in my wine is woods. I age in oak barrels, but then I also use other woods. This wine, as well as the last one, both have cherry wood in them. The Barbera also had a little maple, but this one's just cherry wood. I really thought that cherry would emphasize the blackberry characteristic and really push that. So,
and those tend to follow that same sort of arc we're talking about. You have lighter woods, your lemon and apple woods are good with lights or rosés, and then you get into things like the cherry, maple, etc. And then as you get real dark, your hickory and whiskey oak and things like that. So you just kind of play along with the flavors that you have and accentuate them and contrast them.
Totally. So we have a question or a comment?
Just a large influx of people guessing as to where Zin is originally from.
That's enough time, and we could have Googled it. And
True, yeah, fair enough. Do we have some most common guesses? I mean, we don't have to say exactly everyone's, but just throw out a few of the common guesses.
Okay, they're kind of all over the place. There's Lodi, Escondido, Luxembourg, Hungary, San Ynez Valley, Italy, Santa Barbara.
All sorts of good ones. Okay,
yeah.
So this is a complex question because you're thinking, where are these Zinfandel grapes from? And I think some of those answers were, where are these ones from? These grapes are from the foothills, from Placer County. But the Zinfandel grape itself originally does not come from California at all. So if you guys were guessing California areas because you're thinking it comes from California, it's actually not a Native American grape, even though it's famously known as a California grape. So it's a surprising fact. It originally comes from, well, okay, the first answer was Italy. They thought it was Italy, and it was called Primitivo there. And they realized it matched the genetics of a grape in Italy called Primitivo. And they went, oh shoot, Zinfandel, which we thought was a uniquely American grape, like the only Native American grape that made really good wine, turns out it's actually an Italian grape. But then, over at UC Davis, as they continued that genetic testing, and they have this huge data bank of genetic testing of different grape varieties, they figured out that there's this really rare Croatian grape that I cannot even begin to pronounce. I started to write it down.
It's all consonants.
Yeah, I didn't even try. It's like Krastolansky Kinjevsky or something. It's like something kind of crazy like that. Or I can't quite pronounce it. So it's actually, before Italy, it was Croatian. And then, if you dig back even deeper, all European grapes come from the Fertile Crescent originally. So, kind of a trick question.
So it looks like the closest best response would be from Peggy Smith because she guessed Italy.
Well, I mean, Italy and Croatia, I think, more or less are correct answers. I'll give the code to anyone who said Italy or Croatia.
Good job, Peggy.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's the Zinfandel. As far as life pairings, my life pairing for this is backyard barbecues in the spring. It can double as a winter warmer kind of wine, but really, I mean, backyard barbecues for me. It's like that fruitiness, but also that just lively intensity. It makes me want to I don't know, it's funny, this isn't even my music pairing. It makes me want to listen to Sublime on a hot summer day, barbecue with buddies. Oh, I'm off camera here on Instagram.
Yeah.
So then my music pairing for this is Heaven is Here by Mas Yahoo and MC Yogi. And then also, actually, a second song, Have a Nice Life by Merce. Both, to me, are just kind of fun, energetic, springtime, summertime California songs. So catching that vibe.
Let's see that.
And then my literary pairing for this is kind of playing off the wildness of this wine and how wine is a high-end society thing, and yet this wine really, for me, embodies a wildness. It's from John Muir. Thousands of tired, nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home, that wildness is a necessity. So I think especially right now, if we're all cooped up at home and unable to go out to our normal social things and interact, it's really easy to get caught up in our day-to-day and even in normal life. It's easy to get caught up in our societies and our cycles of going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home. To take a break from that, to go out to the mountains, to go to the coast, to go down to the American River. We have a beautiful bike trail and river reserve here in California and in Sacramento. I think those are just so important to reconnect with nature. It's like, what do they call it? Forest bathing, people are saying now, and grounding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it basically boils down to run around barefoot in nature. And I honestly think that just does a huge amount to center you and level you out and take down the stress levels and just connect you with what's important.
Yeah.
So, and then, okay, lastly, my food pairings, it's just barbecue, barbecue this wine.
No, and I agree. It's got a lot of that, that red meat, go well with red meat, but it could as well go with your, your lighter meats, your vegetables, especially as they're all a grill.
Yeah.
This is starting to get, a little more complex. And
I can see mushrooms with this too, especially wild mushrooms that kind of have an earthier flavor. This isn't a super earthy wine, but that wildness I think could go with that.
like umami.
Yeah, exactly. So do you have a positional pairing? Or
a Kama Sutra. I mean,
Kama
they're
Sutra,
not,
yeah.
like some of it is positions, but more of it is, an approach and part of the relationship. And this is kind of that next phase in there. It's more the deeper exploration. It's where you're getting to know each other, getting to know. It's a little more nuanced because you're starting to know, what each other want. You have more complexities, and it's a little more slow and deliberate. You might say, like tantric. Could be good for things a little more like intimate, cuddly positions, reverse cowgirl or in spooning, or just things that are more, those next stages where you're no longer in, like the flirtation, you're no longer in the, complete horn dog mode. You're actually starting to get to know each other and enjoy that. So that's my pairing for this.
Nice.
I like it. Okay. We have a question?
Yeah, speaking of pairings, our friend Heidi is asking, are the various wine pairings posted anywhere? My cousin Danielle would love to know.
Oh,
We should compile it, what we get from people and all the ones we have and from chefs that have paired with us.
True. We've
Yeah.
got some really good comments from the crowd in this and previous episodes for cool pairings.
The jalapeno poppers for the
Yeah.
rosé was still brilliant.
Yeah. You know what? So good question. And what we'll do is we've also had the suggestion for music pairings. Maybe later I'll post the descriptions as well as the pairings to our page and our website so people can look them up later and see all these details, because you guys probably aren't taking notes at home while we're talking. But if you find it interesting, we'll post them later for reference. Thank you for suggesting that. So,
Yeah, good idea.
yeah. All right. I think that's the third wine, and we're ready to move into the fourth here.
Or actually, before we move into the fourth, we have somebody else to introduce.
Oh, yes.
Ah,
Oh, we haven't named
Check
her.
the agenda, Kevin.
Yeah, we haven't named her yet.
Many of you have seen me around town as your delivery guy. Well, now you're going to see me around town in this. You want to raise up that other inch for me,
yeah,
Kevin?
today.
Sure.
Oh, that's
We've got a
exciting.
new 100% electric, 100% street legal delivery bike. So
Yeah.
we're going to strap on some saddlebags and some baskets, insulated, and roll around town delivering wine using this. So it's one of the last few ways in which we were integrating our ethos into our business. We make our own packaging, all natural processes, all natural wines, and we were burning gas to deliver. We weren't there yet.
Yeah.
We've now taken that step. So it's another thing you guys can chime in on. We haven't named her yet. I'm personally angling for the orange cycle, like orange sickle because of the color, but cycle because I love bad puns. But chime in. We haven't made a final decision yet, and either way, I'm going to keep calling her the orange sickle.
Yeah. Yeah, the orange sickle, the sickle cycle. Yeah, we've had a lot of cool name suggestions. So please keep bringing them in. You can influence our final name for our delivery vehicle. And for the record, strapping on the saddlebags is not one of Jerome's sexual pairings. It's a little bonus. All right, so you guys can go ahead and pour yourself that fourth wine. Let's see where we're at here. Wait a second. It's not the right wine.
DL7?
It's the Syrah. Yeah, here.
I don't think that's right.
I may have mixed up our stuff here. So, go ahead and pour yourself that fourth wine. And so, on this one, you're going to get a lot of dark fruit and a lot of spice. But you're also going to get into a richer characteristic. So whereas that Zinfandel and the Barbera had a really nice, dark fruit, but there was a crisperness to it, a lighterness to them. Now you're getting into more tannins, more weight, and more overall, just a tannic astringent quality. So you get more length to the finish and more spice. For me, one of the things that comes through as well in this wine is I used some different woods here. So there's still a little bit of cherry wood here, but there's also some maple and hickory. And it brings in just an overall bigger spiciness. So, to keep us on our timeline here, I'm going to move right into my life pairings and my music pairings here. So, on this, our life pairing on this is a sexy night out with your girl, or guy, or both, And then we have, for our music pairings, Killing Me Softly by the Fugees on the relaxed side. And then on a little more intense side, we have 2 Weeks by FKA Twigs. Kind of a quirky artist, but check it out. It's a really cool song. And then my literary pairing is from Osho, from The Secret of Secrets. And it's, the sensuous person is liquid, flowing, fluid. Each experience, and he becomes it. Seeing a sunset, she is the sunset. Seeing the night, dark night, beautiful silent darkness, she becomes the darkness. In the morning, he becomes the light. He is all that life is. She tastes from life from every nook and corner. Hence, she becomes rich. This is real richness. The idea of just delving into the senses of life and really connecting with that.
I like that.
And then lastly, my food pairings for this are mushrooms, dark sauces, dark meat, and kind of your richer cheeses.
Right, and even on those notes, you were saying dark, rich, deep, like, I think this would also be great for some of your gamier meats, your lamb or your goat, that really have that extra, like, body and complexity to it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and then did you have a pairing for this as well?
I did, but I also wanted to, I think most of you saw me there kind of pouring into the other thing and tasting back and forth. I suddenly was like, oh my god, did I get, does everybody have mixed info? And I poured it out, and what you do have in your taster kits is the L7. So,
Okay.
that's what I was doing there. And as for this one, I kind of go along with a lot of what you were saying there as far as it being deep and rich, and it kind of goes along with that same crescendo, and this is about where you're kind of reaching that sort of climax. It's the culmination of all of these different phases, the flirtation, the passion, the exploration, and then you kind of get to where you're putting it all together. It's full of complexity, and in that it's, it's sexy, it's smooth, it's clean, but it's also, spicy, deep, it's wild.
Yeah.
And this one, I don't have any position or specific experiences, because I think this is kind of that point where you've gone through what's kind of like rote and ritual, you're kind of going through the motions in one way or another. And this is kind of where you've developed your own. I don't know what your bedroom passions are, and everybody's got their own. This is kind of something a little more developed and individual. So that's what I had here for this, more complex and deep.
Yeah.
Jean Winter says, best wine for me so far.
Nice, nice. Thank you, Jean. So then we have our last wine here, the L8 Wanderlust Red Blend. So Jerome's gonna get our studio audience a pour here. And so for this wine, this is our most popular wine overall. It's our big red blend, and what I wanted to do here is make a blend that embodied the flavors of the foothills here around Sacramento. So a lot of our red grapes especially come from the Sierra Nevada foothills. And in the foothills, the two most popular grapes, the most kind of notorious grapes for our region, are Barbera and Zinfandel. In addition to that, most great blends are centered around Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is my foothills blend, Cabernet Sauvignon, Barbera, and Zinfandel. And seeing as that the foothills grow red grapes in a great style that tends to be kind of intense, dark fruit and jammy and spicy, I played to that style. I embodied that all the way. Some of my other wines are very contrarian, they're like quirky and extreme. This is one where it's like, let me take the most awesome, well-known, balanced aspects of the foothills and just really bring them together in a blend. So then, of course, I did do some twists. My twist on this is that I aged this on pretty much every wood I could throw at it. That's cherry, maple, hickory. I also brought in some whiskey oak, which all of that, you get this maple characteristic. You get cherry, you get hickory kind of smokiness. You also get some whiskey smokiness. You get dark berry and jamminess, and it's pretty intense wine overall.
It's very much, it makes me think of like a dad wine, and not necessarily a wine drinker's wine. I mean, it's quite appealing to wine drinkers as well, but it's just a beautiful combination of all the deep, dark, spicy reds with things like the whiskey oak and the hickory. So it gives this real campfire, smoker's den, like real complex, really like like dark, heavy, sipping wine type of effect.
I think it has a cool mix of darkness and heaviness and spiciness that wine drinkers can really enjoy because it has a lot of the layers of complexity that they like. But it's also for the more casual drinker who isn't obsessed with wine per se, that they like some wine, they like some beer, they like some scotch. This has that just broad appeal of being just tasty while also having complexity. So it's interesting but easy drinking at the same time. Something I haven't mentioned yet, and before we get into my pairings here, I want to mention is all of these Lucid wines. The art on these labels is from an amazing Sacramento artist, Micah Crandallbear.
You may have seen his mural around town.
Yeah, he's got a mural in Midtown Sacramento here, and he was a local artist of some notoriety. He had a cool mural. He grew up with our oldest brother, actually, and went to the same school as how we originally knew of him. But around the time I reached out to him because I loved his art and I wanted to use it on my labels, and he said, yeah, go for it. Within like a couple of months after that, he blew up. He went and did some East Coast art shows and international art shows, and now he's been like touring all around the world showing his art. And he's not currently because of COVID, but really cool art. Sacramento local, really making Sacramento proud. So Mike is awesome. Go check out his art. So he does all of our Lucid art. So that one we call Wanderlust.
My personal favorite, the Wanderlust.
Yeah, it's
and it was our dad's as well. He's probably bought more of this than any single person out there. So.
Right, I have to pour some out for him here.
Cheers, Vince.
Yeah, we're gonna clean it anyway.
Yeah, there we go.
I poured out some too.
So thank you, Smiles poured out some as well. And my pairings for this, my life pairing for this, is being adventurous, traveling, hopping on a train. That one's for my dad. Hopping on a train, camping under the stars. Just that Wanderlust vibe.
Perfect wine for around a campfire. Anything involving smoke. Like I said, there, it's just got those smoky barbecue notes that are just perfect for those things.
True. And then my music pairing for this is from Manu Chao, Me Gustas Tu. And my literary pairing is this is one corner of one country, of one continent, on one planet, that's a corner of a galaxy, that's a corner of a universe, that is forever growing and shrinking and creating and destroying and never remaining the same for a single millisecond. And there is so much to see. That's from the 11th Doctor Who. Then food pairing. So food pairing for this is grilled meat or veggies. This is kind of just another barbecue wine for me. You could do pasta or lasagna.
And again, like kind of what I was saying with the atmosphere, anything with grill marks. You get char marks on your steak. You do that with a mushroom. You take some stone fruit and throw it on a cast iron so you get a sear on it. Anything that has, that kind of carbon note to it would be a great pairing with this.
Yeah,
Asparagus, maybe?
Grilled
asparagus
absolutely.
Good call.
Yeah. And then did you have a pairing for this as well?
I did. And going along with that same concept of kind of the arc and this being such like a dark sipping wine, what seemed natural for me on this is kind of, it's the denouement, which is, it's what comes after the climax. It's that kind of slow descent after. So it's your post-sex cigarette, so to speak. So
sounds nice.
This is one for basking in the afterglow, laying intertwined, trying to catch your breath, like taking a shower together, or just, laying out under the stars and just kind of recovering from the, everything that came before. So I do think this isn't a very active, passionate wine. It's for when you're just kind of relaxing. You've had your pleasure and you're enjoying each other.
It's not trying hard. It's All right, we have a question or comment from the audience from Smiles Miles. Oh wait, actually, you know what? Okay, Smiles Miles, can you come up here and say this one on camera here? Yes, yeah, please do. Don't be shy.
Okay, well, this is my own comment, not from anybody else.
Awesome, well, how perfect.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna be surprised if Jerome doesn't have a couple dates lined up after this segment.
Awesome, thank you.
And that is all.
He's my PR manager.
Yeah, she's Jerome's hype woman. All right, so that is our 5th wine, the L8 Wanderlust Red Blend. And that concludes our tasting lineup for today. We've tasted through our 5 wines. Thank you guys for joining us for these wines. Thank you for checking out. Thank you for our music accompaniment today, Ruby J and Aaron. And thank you guys for joining us, buying our kits and supporting us. We have some kits coming up here. We have, for the next couple of weeks, we have the Bokish Focus for next week, which includes a bit of a Mother's Day theme. So check that out. Order by Monday. We can get it to you if you're a little out of state, but not too far. Otherwise, within California by Wednesday. And then we have some other weeks coming up after that. A drink and draw with Karen Chen, as well as we're going to do a help us create a blend, where we're going to throw out versions of a blend I'm making, and you guys get to influence the final wine with your votes and comments on our live tasting. And then after that, we're going to have a really cool one, which is going to be our house party. We're going to have a bunch of different musicians and performers, circus performers, fire spinners, and
Magician,
yeah. Really cool local Sacramento performers are going to be here. So that's going to be a longer session. That's on May 30th. Check that out.
There'll be less of us talking and more performances in between, rather than like show and tells.
And we're definitely going to be a little more inebriated. Not as if we aren't already on our shows, but that's going to be the real pinnacle of that achievement. So, so those are going to be a lot of fun. Look forward to having you guys join us for those. Order your kits online now. We'll post a link. And I think that's it, everyone. Thank you guys so much. And,
yep. And if you want to take, I was going to say, just as you were clocking out, if you want to take part in any of this, obviously, if you want to buy some, do that. If you want to shout out for your group, email in about that. If you're interested in getting involved in the clubs as being one of the artists, if you're interested in being a performer, we like to work locally. We like to work with friends. So reach out. We love to hype up the people that support us. We're all going to do this together. So the more we're involved, the more we all win. Reach out.
yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody.